Greetings. Hope you're doing well today. I want to share a little few here and there thoughts on therapeutic directives. Now, therapeutic directives I'm defining as the things that we give our clients to do outside the therapy room. So this will be things like certain journal writing, certain rituals, all kinds of tasks that we give them to change the patterns that they're presently dealing with into hopefully new, more empowering patterns. I think a lot of research does show that most of the change actually happens outside the therapy room. So having therapeutic directives, I think, is an important part of therapy. My thoughts on these directives, a couple of things come to mind that, and again, this is just mostly my opinion and my experience. But the first thing is that we need to make sure that the directives we're giving to our clients are something that's in their value system. If we try to get them to do something that is uh, not remotely connected to what's most important to them, it's a hard sell. They're going to feel like you don't understand them, or they may even see the directive as pointless. So we have to be very clear in sometimes explaining why we want people to do things. Sometimes we can be a little covert in what we're sharing, but I think that we're trying to get them to do something different, we may have to appeal to the most important things in their lives. So, for example, if someone wants to overcome a kind of anxiety about public speaking, just by kind of giving them little things to do, to get up for just a minute to say something at a meeting and sit down, that's all fine. But there has to be framed in a bigger context as, why is this important? I mean, really, why is it important that they are comfortable speaking in public? I mean, most people don't have to speak in public. So obviously, it's a problem for them for some reason. So we need to make sure that what we're asking them to do is so clearly tied to what's most important to them. So what's important to them is not overcoming fear. Maybe it's a feeling of safety, a security, or a greater goal. So, number one, we need to make sure that whatever we're directing people to do is tied to what they value, what's important to them. Here's an example. I have this client that I'm working with now. It's a nice young man who has severe social anxiety. There's a whole bunch of reasons for that, but that's where he is. So one of the tasks that I wanted him to do was to go and talk to people, to actually ask questions of people. This is a young man who, anytime I ask him something, he has a scared look and he goes, yes or no, with no elaboration, because he's really, really worked up. So if I want him to go and begin talking to people, I need to make sure that it's something in a context he finds valuable. Well, he loves playing video games. He loves playing video games with his cousins and with people online. So one of his assignments that we both agreed upon, which is another important thing they have to agree upon to do it, is to go to the video game store once a week and just ask a question. Just don't go in and pick something and hand it and put your card in the reader and run out, but to ask someone behind the counter or someone in the store one question. And it could be something simple like, do you have any other games like this one? Or, I see this game, is there another addition to it? Whatever it is. When do the new games come in? Whatever that can be, because even though that's kind of a scary thing for him, it is still within a context of something that's valuable for him. He wants to know about video games. He wants to, find out more, and that's an interest for him. So by doing a little bit of steps each week, along with some other things we're doing, we're starting to see a little change in his behavior. Sometimes it has to be a little change. Sometimes people who've read my books or seen the videos expect me to, to always to endorse these big, huge, transformative experiences every time. But transformation can also happen in small increments, because some people need smaller, more measurable things to interrupt their patterns. Other people may need bigger. And if we're really focused on the client, who is the most important person in the therapy process, we want to ensure that we're adapting the therapy to them. Now, the second thing that I wanted to share, it's kind of flashed in my mind. I had a clinical supervisor many years ago when I was first starting out named Jerry Allums, and we worked in community mental health center. He was a marriage and family therapist, kind of oversaw the interns. And he had this idea about therapeutic directives. He told me, he says, never give your client something in which they can fail, unless failing is going to help them. And something it really stuck with me, because sometimes we the therapists have this big idea that, by performing this task or doing these things, their lives will be better. And that's probably true. But if they don't follow through on the task, or they find the task is too overwhelming, doesn't mean it's not hard. Sometimes these tasks are hard, but we're talking mental overwhelming. They will sometimes feel like they failed. Maybe they want to complete the task. Maybe they want to get up and speak at the local PTA meeting to overcome their fear, but it might be too much too soon. And so another way to beat themselves up and to feel like failures. So Jerry's advice, I think, is real important. If we're going to give people tasks to do, directives, it has to be something that if they aren't able to do it, that they don't feel like they failed. And maybe setting the context of interaction so that it's kind of a no-fail. As I mentioned in a previous video about, sometimes working with resistant clients, when they come back and they just kind of refuse to do anything, tell them it's fantastic that you've decided to take autonomy and make a choice not to. That's great, rather than try to fight them. Well, the same kind of thing. We're not talking about controlling people who are trying to sabotage the therapy process, just that if it is overwhelming, if it is too much, how can they feel like a success? And then his second part is, unless failing at it is helpful to the therapy process. So sometimes, in different circumstances, maybe we could set up things so that the person doesn't realize it, but they can't succeed. So, for example, the mother who wants to micromanage her children, we set up a new pattern for her to where she has to do it, and we encourage her to do it, but we know that it's an impossible way, as much as we're asking her to do, so she has to deal with not being able to do it. And that kind of is a little further out, a lot more extra thinking and planning on that. So just kind of putting out there, the first is that we want to make sure that these directives are within the person's value system. And number two, that we're not setting people up to fail. If we feel that person's not going to complete a task, well, then don't give it unless it's there to make some kind of point to them, for them to gain some new experience, or that it's going to help overall the therapy process. Simple stuff, but I have found the older and hopefully wiser I get, the simple stuff is really what makes therapy work. So thanks for listening. Hope you have a great day.